As long as man has wheeled things across this earth, he has raced them. Machines like this arguably playing a bigger role than the... That was weird. Now, driving talent is a rather precarious thing. Your mother probably drives you crazy, but insurance companies prefer your mother. Driving is not racing. In fact, racing is pretty much the opposite of both driving and life. It isn't about the journey, it's about getting to the destination first.
Grand Prix of Long Beach is a
4 out of 5 drivers think they're an above-average driver.
I rolled that car in Ohio, I'd be out there, ma'am.
That's not how averages work. If one were to ask the general populace what makes a good race car driver, they'd probably say some combination of good reaction times, neck strength, and money.
Boys on the Reds now.
These factors clearly play a role, but as you might imagine, there's more to this.
Racing invites physics fanatics. It isn't just arguable that the nerds win races. It is fully understood. The best teams arm themselves with the best nerds and finances to nerd out. One way to measure this is to look at how teams finish. Shout out to the GOAT of data drawings, Sportball. This red line here shows the correlation between where two drivers on the same F1 team finish, with each dot representing a season. The higher the number, the tighter they ran together. And in 2024, it sat all the way up here at 0.8. That means most teammates were basically tethered, like the ice climbers in Super Smash Bros. Now watch what happens here when we layer in IndyCar with this blue line down here, which comes in recently at 0.25, a weak to moderate relationship at best. With IndyCar, teammates are less tethered, which tells us it might be more about the driver than in F1. Now, this isn't a perfect representation, but doesn't really matter how we look at this. And the equation of man versus machine seems to be more machine, at least a lot more so with F1 than IndyCar. Perhaps that's why there's so little true analysis of drivers. They're difficult to untangle, cyborgs of sorts, rooted in their mechanical fighter jets. Given that F1 is a Constructors' Cup, while IndyCar is mostly a spec series, this makes sense. You can do more to your car with F1 than you can with IndyCar. That doesn't make one better than the other, but it does make it a little bit easier to judge driver talent with IndyCar.
An experienced driver would have just got off the gas.
Now first, let's start with some beef that I have. What little true analysis there is of driver talent is mostly in hindsight. Take, for example, this move by Joseph Newgarden in the Indy 500. It worked, and we can mathematically say why. He drove faster and finished in first place. He won the race. But this move in isolation doesn't really tell us if Newgarden is an elite driver or really what type of driver he is at all. Sure, it's a signal, but similarly, Messi is often credited for his elite passing via his assists. That ignores half the equation. In fact, it ignores the vast majority of the equation, including the decision to pass the ball. Anyone can kick a ball, and any decent race car driver can make a pass. And the true skill for Newgarden is actually right here, before the overtake occurs. To understand what makes a good driver, let's start with what actually makes a race interesting: the turns. Quickest path between 2 points is a straight line, but that's where turns kind of screw everything up. Take this IndyCar race at Long Beach. There are 11 turns on each lap, marked in red, and 90 laps in a race. That's 990 turns total.
Each turn has an optimal line, but at no point will a driver execute the perfect line.
Well, that's actually rare, but even when it looks perfect, like here, it's slightly off. Now, a driver will get very close to that optimal line, a hell of a lot closer than you and I, but at no point will they hit it perfectly. That's because the ideal line is a figment. It's fugazi. It does not exist. Now, that does not mean that it's not important. Far from it. The best example of turning comes at, you guessed it, corners. Take this generic corner here. There are an infinite number of ways you could go through it, but technically, there is a right way. Start with this first circle on the very inside. The radius is tiny, so the distance traveled is short. But that sharpness means the car has to crawl through it or it'll break past the grip of the tires. Now go to the outside with this green circle. It's wider, so the distance is longer, but the car can carry way more speed because the radius is bigger. Two options, and neither one is actually the best, at least on paper. The fastest possible line is this red one. It's the circle with the largest radius you can draw that still stays inside the boundaries of the track. In isolation, it's a simple math equation for the quickest way around a corner, but in racing, nothing really ever happens in isolation. Let's zoom in on this iconic fountain section at Long Beach. There's a perfect geometric line through it, but both before and after, there are additional turns, and that's the catch. The ideal line is not one that gets you through a single corner the fastest, it's the one that gets you through the whole track the fastest. And that can look many different ways, like these colored lines here. Sure, the shape of the turn is the same all race, but temperature, wind, fuel, the rubber on your tires, the rubber laid down on the track, these are all variables that nudge these lines every single lap. And don't forget, this is racing. There are other cars out there more than happy to get in your way. All this means the ideal line is chaotic. Yes, you can prepare for it, but largely speaking, it is dynamic in nature. Similar to Messi or any of the best athletes, the best drivers have the ability to adapt. So what goes into an adaptive decision? As we wander around the world, there's no shortage of information available, and when you're going 200 plus, there's more of it. Gravity forces, or G-force, is a fairly straightforward measure. Acceleration divided by gravity. An object at rest is what you and I feel right now, 1G. Braking can produce spikes of about 5 Gs, but it's on the turns where drivers tend to feel the most G-forces, and that's because it's sustained.
One place has some serious Gs. This is Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and on the turns here, drivers are pulling about 3 to 5 sustained Gs. So what does that do to a driver?
Well, consider the 2001 race at Texas Motor Speedway, a 1.5-mile oval where cars could run extremely fast due to the high banks, thus pulling dangerously high sustained G-forces, about 5.5 for 14 of the 23-second lap, and peaking at over 6 Gs.
You feel the blood draining to the bottom of your legs.
We are over the limit of the human being.
Understandably, 21 of the 25 drivers reported vertigo and disorientation. And so CART reached out to NASA, who consulted that these types of sustained Gs would risk loss of consciousness.
Stay tight, stay tight, stay tight, stay tight.
That's not good for a race. It was called off for safety concerns. There's also crashes, which can be taxing. Fortunately, safety has increased substantially in the last decade of racing.
While G-forces are extremely taxing, drivers will adapt to them through years of training, which notably changes them from a negative experience to a positive sensory signal. The slightest slip or understeer or oversteer could send a signal to a driver that, well, something's off.
Oh no.
Or maybe you're doing what you should be.
Clearly, we are all different, just as our feelings are different. Studies have looked into what's called a just noticeable difference, a test that looks at the smallest change in a stimulus that a person can detect. And those studies have shown that we differ in stimuli sensitivity. That means it's understandable to believe that certain drivers feel the road better than others. But what about our greatest tool? I mean, we humans have tremendous visual acuity. For example, here's an image of what your dog might see. Okay, here's what he actually might see. And here's what you might see. And what's perfect vision? 20/20, something I do not have. EFP-TOZ, yeah, that's still me. With the help of corrective lenses, I might as well be Neo from the Matrix. Mr. Anderson has perfect vision.
In fact, I bet you I got better eyesight than this guy right here, and he drives race cars. Take this.
All right.
Hello?
Alright, go ahead. Read the top line.
I don't think I can.
Not bad, yeah.
Obviously, vision is a lot more complex than just visual acuity. There's a fair amount of visual research when it comes to driving. All of us direct our gaze on a future path approximately 1 to 2 seconds ahead of the vehicle, and when cornering, non-racing drivers, they fixate on the tangent or apex. However, race car drivers supplement this with frequent anticipatory fixations further along the upcoming road sequence. Not just the apex, but the exit and road ahead. In other words, race car drivers stare further into the future. Race car drivers also had less wasted motion. In terms of their fixations, they weren't just downloading more information, they were downloading better information. Another recent study compared 7 racing drivers against 10 normal drivers in a racing simulator. And using eye tracking technology, there were some fascinating results. Racing drivers rotated their head about twice as much while cornering. To see is to devour. I mean, the first thing they teach you in driving school is to look up so you can devour more. Now, there's more to that study, something that drivers might even disagree with, but we'll come back to that later because something else happens when you go 200 plus. More adrenaline. As the human body becomes selective, it narrows its attention. One of the ways it does this is vision. This is often useful, but when you're in a constant state of danger, it's just kind of annoying, at least if you want to win the race. Connor Daly shared his health results with me. Just take a look at the heart rate here. 55 minutes in zone 4 and 39 minutes in zone 3 for an activity where he is sitting down. Drivers have to regulate their attention and prevent stress from collapsing their perceptual system. A study found that race car drivers actually delay their blinks until lower risk moments. Now, adrenaline isn't all bad. As the Yerkes-Dodson law states, performance seems to increase with arousal up to a certain point, then we see a point of diminishing returns, meaning stress can improve performance up to a certain point. I actually asked several IndyCar drivers what they thought the public misunderstood the most when it came to driving a race car. The most common answer by far was the toll and endurance required to drive a race. Something else requires endurance. Tires. The only part of the car that touches the track is the tires. Ideally.
Stingray Robinson! Huge accident!
Contact. Barely no serious injuries.
Oh my goodness, Santino!
Talk to me when you can, bud. All good.
Understandably, that makes them pretty important, but in almost every racing series, teams get the same tires from the same supplier, which raises an understandable question.
So, if everyone uses the same tires, why are some drivers better at managing them than others? Alex? Mi amor.
Alex Palou has mastered the art of finding the limit of adhesion, living just a few decimal points below its razor-sharp edge. Today's DW12 is known to kill the tires when drivers push beyond their limits. We're not talking about something you might see on TV. These are quick and small mistakes that lead to an acceleration in temperature, which leads to a rapid loss in grip, a non-linear loss in tire grip.
Made a mistake. I thought the tire was going to blow up. I can't believe it held.
The St. Petersburg race here earlier this year was a perfect example. In IndyCar, they have 2 tire compounds, primaries and alternates, which are theoretically faster but degrade faster than the primaries. 21 of the 25 drivers started on the primaries at St. Pete's. Palou went the opposite route, starting on the faster alternates. He was not only able to build a massive lead, but importantly, he stretched these tires to a ridiculous 38 laps. He built such a comfortable lead that nobody was able to catch him.
How do you beat this man?
Oh, and there were 3 other drivers that tried the same strategy, but one barely cracked the top 10. In other words, this wasn't really pit strategy, it was Palou.
You tell us, would you ride black, red, or red, black? Probably red.
In many ways, tire management is tire temperature management. As the race goes on, these boys get pretty warm. And as they warm, the rubber becomes more malleable, bending its way around the grooves and cracks of the track, typically giving the car more grip. Each turn here at Indy, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are geometrically identical, at least very close. However, they are completely different when it comes to the tire approach. As the driver works into turn 1, he can attack it with a bit more speed, but the tires don't have much time to cool down between 1 and 2. Tire management highlights a common fallacy when it comes to motorsports: bravery. Felix Rosenqvist was passed several times at this year's Indy 500, and he won. Alex Palou was passed several times last year, and he won. Any skilled driver can probably get by somebody, but there are a list of trade-offs when you do it. Tire degradation might not be worth it. You might lose more time than you gain because you've gone too far off your line. Passing is expensive. While our vision informs us of our surroundings, it won't inform us of a car's relationship with the road. For that, we need feel. A large part of feel comes from our ear. And no, this doesn't have to do with hearing. As we rotate our head, the fluid within the semicircular canal shifts, bending tiny hair cells, allowing us to sense what plane our head is rotating along. Another element here is our crystals. Yes, you have crystals in your head. They sit in the otolith organs. As a driver accelerates, these crystals move and pull hair cells, sending signals to the brain that there is a change in the body's motion. As a driver rolls along, our ears are feeling the tires and consequently the road. The secret to Alex Palou's tire management might have to do with his ears. Studies have shown that just noticeable differences vary. For example, some people detect smaller motion changes than others. In a racing context, that might mean noticing subtle shifts in a car's rotation or grip buildup in the tires earlier, or better reading of the track's changes as the race progresses. All of this information is available to download. I mean, we got vision, hearing, balance, motion, and elite drivers seem to download more of it, as well as probably more accurate information. But there still is a question that remains here. After the download, do you have the right software? This is how most race car drivers learn to drive.
Yeah, let's do it.
This turn's completely new to me, but I got some idea how to do it because I've driven before.
Feeling the car is really an estimation. The brain predicts how the car should be moving and continuously compares that prediction to incoming signals. When people claim that Alex Palou is consistent, it probably has a lot less to do with, say, having a different ear or eye, at least in the physical, tangible sense. Rather, it may be that his brain interprets mismatches better than others. For instance, he maybe feels a slider slip because he's able to filter through all the noise of being a race car driver.
And let me tell you, there is a lot of noise. Whew. Driving a car is so chaotic and fast-moving that it leads to something the public obsesses over: reaction times.
There are seemingly an infinite amount of videos of guys smashing flashing lights and grabbing falling objects. Surely lightning-fast reaction times are the key to a quick car. These drivers might not have a 6'9" frame like LeBron, but they must be reactive gods. However, having cat-like reflexes is a skill that drivers don't really need because they probably don't have it. Recall the vision study I mentioned previously, where 7 professional race car drivers were compared against 10 regular drivers. The pros did not have significantly different reaction times. This is not some rare finding. I spoke with S2 Cognition a few months ago while looking into the decision-making of a great hitter. There were no significant differences in Major League Baseball players versus minor league baseball players, or gamers, or anyone.
That means that Alex and I might have the same reaction times. Shit, I might be better.
So where is he different? This leads to the final part of our process, the part that we all enjoy: implementation. I think it's easiest to understand this if we consider a different example. I might be able to process basketball information fairly close to Anthony Edwards, but I can't do this.
No.
He's taller, he's bigger, he's faster, and he's more explosive. All right, so I don't have the same physical tool set to implement like Anthony Edwards, but there's also playmaking differences that he probably has that I don't have. I mean, certainly guys like Derek White, who I matched up with in college, who were similar, at least more similar to me than Anthony, but had just a better feel for the game. Was this playmaking difference in Derek's download, or was it in his processing, or was it in his implementation? It's difficult to know, but it's very possible that his implementation, that is, his mental implementation, his decision making, was also different than mine. This is where the software meets the hardware, which brings us back to Newgarden here. Take a look at the final lap of the Indy 500 here in 2024. We got Pato O'Ward leading Joseph Newgarden on the final lap. By turn 2, there's a good distance between them, roughly 4 to 5 car lengths. As we come out of turn 2, Pato zigs fairly sharply to break the draft for Newgarden, but Newgarden is with him all the way. At this point, he has a few options: go or no go. Keep in mind this is incredibly difficult here in turn 3. This is not the turn where most of the overtakes happen at the Indy 500. Newgarden predicts this move, rather he anticipates it, pulls out of the slipstream, and shakes and bakes his way into the lead. While reaction times are a part of this, the real challenge is filtering through a set of rules. Newgarden has an expectation model he's built off of years of racing and innate talent. As Pato moves here, he is racing, but importantly, he is building. Based on all the experience and innate talent that Joseph has, he is building an expectation model of what Pato will do and where he will go, back and forth. This is where elite drivers separate in speeded cognition, prediction under uncertainty. A risk-reward calculator is running in Joseph's head here.
Oh my goodness!
I was also curious, if American race car drivers grow up doing more ovals, do they actually tend to do better on them? While NASCAR is almost entirely ovals and F1 doesn't do any ovals, IndyCar is different in that it races at different kinds of racetracks: ovals, road courses, and street circuits. This makes it easier to compare drivers in the type of race. For example, Pato and Newgarden have excelled on ovals, while Palou has been significantly better on street tracks. Clearly this is a different spectacle, but one thing we can be sure of, it's entertaining. I think ovals have always served as a wonderful example of something. Reductionists have always been quick to point out the circular nature of racing. These are mostly reasonable people making pretty reasonable claims, but they're blowing right by the reasoning. Any spectacle can be reduced. The Northern Lights are just some lights. The Grand Canyon is just a rock, and well, a stroll in the park is just a stroll by some trees. The exact reasoning that seeks to dismiss motorsports, specifically circular racing or ovals, is circular by nature. If you strip away the context of anything, all entertainment becomes uninteresting. The circle is just the stage. In fact, it doesn't really matter what shape it is, at least it doesn't seem to. People watch and people flock to watch motorsports because it's the one place we can watch man and machine push together, even if we don't fully understand what's going on under the hood. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and take care.